Welcome to AI Coding Unleashed. If you've been looking to use AI products to turn ideas into concepts, then this is the video for you. We're going to take a raw concept, it's a really raw concept, and we'll turn it into a working demo by the end of the video. You'll see us define the product spec, define the UX interface, create the solution architecture, and then create the code. You'll actually watch the code unfold in front of your eyes. It's not perfect. You'll find that there's issues along the way that we have to solve. There's bugs that come up. There's some challenges to work through. But we'll show you how to get past those. And we'll show you the tool sets that need to be used, the prompts, the kind of the solutions that you've got, and the options that you have to approach this sort of work. There's a lot to learn. This is a really dynamic space. And the next session is a live coding session. You'll see a lot of how this actually works in real life. So I hope you enjoy the video that's in front. There's a lot of information to digest, but there is a lot of help as well. So if you get through this, you'll see at different points there's options to reach out for help. Please do. We're here to help you, get you up and running. And yeah, welcome to the amazing world of AI coding. So welcome. This is the second session that we've run on AI for coding, rapid coding, and we're going to take you through kind of some intro slides, get to be across what you guys are, your experience is and where you're at. And like I said, it's a very interactive session. This is a community that's been set up. There's a number of product development courses coming, sort of setting it up so that there's peer support. Everyone can sort of help each other out a little bit. There's myself, you can message with questions that you've got, but you know, the idea is to kind of learn together and get through it all together. Just in terms of what's mapped out on this session, we'll do a little bit of introduction and some sort of housekeeping, take you through what the session is going to look like, how it works, talk you through kind of how to participate, and participation is you're welcome to sort of jump in with questions at any point in time. It'd be really helpful actually if you have got questions, just to jump in. We'll talk through kind of development cycle. So we'll actually look at a potential product, map some stuff out, and get some products developed of some sort to a sort of limited level. There's only 15 minutes, so we're not going to be able to get through it like completely, but we'll get a fair step of the way. And then having done that, we'll then move into the Q&A and the wrap up. So there'll be 20 minutes at the end for you guys to ask questions. But as I said, as we go through this, if you've got questions, then please feel free just to jump in with what you've got. And welcome Hazel as well. Nice to see you joined. Okay, so a little bit about me. So I've been in the field of AI for over 20 years now. Did a PhD in hardware accelerated neural networks back in 2008. Currently, I'm leading a project where it's a multi-billion-dollar project doing some infrastructure. And my role there is data and AI lead. And previously, I've developed AI solutions for big banks, Siemens in different areas, sort of right from the very early stages. So I've got a fair bit of background in this space, but the kind of roles that I've been doing have been fairly hands-off in recent years. And what's happened with the development of AI is it's become possible to get quite involved again because it just reduces the time that's required. So it's been a lot of fun to be able to sort of get back in. And right now I'm fully invested in relearning kind of all that stuff, building up, a community to sort of learn along with me. And so the goal of this, I've sort of set this up as a path to experiments, to do real world development, and just to try out. There's my email there if you want to contact me after the session or during any point in time. And then this video will be put up onto YouTube at the end of this, so you'll be able to access this. It's going to take probably a little while for it to be up on YouTube, but I've just got to put a few slides in front, but it will be there before too long. And then there's a number of other sessions that will be on the channel. So there's a couple of different groups running. This is the Auckland group is one of them, but it's worth checking out the YouTube channel because you'll find a few bits and pieces on there. In terms of sessions of what we've got mapped out in coming weeks, this session's on front-end development. We'll get to the end of this session having actually developed an application and probably take some requests from you guys as to what you want to build, so sort of throw some stuff together. We then, have run in sort of a number of different sessions, and what we run will depend on what people are interested in and what you want to actually focus on. So databases, we've got front-end development again in a couple of weeks' time. And then we're going to start looking at some of the more technical stuff like AI agents. And then on the 3rd of May, we'll cover this a bit later, there'll be a hackathon where if you're interested in coming together to code something up with other people, then that's an awesome opportunity to come together and do that, because it'll be a full day event where we'll get through a lot, and you'll see how much we get through in 50 minutes. Within half an hour, within a full day, you get through an awful lot. And then we're going to start looking at mobile app development for those that want to look at it. And then probably after that will then depends on what people are, are interested in doing. So that's the kind of what's coming up ahead. But before we kick into this, I guess I'm curious to hear from people as to where you're at in your journey. Like if you've using it, if you're gaining experience, if you're fairly expert in it. Just do a quick whip around the room, and people that want to shout out where they're at, just feel free to jump out where you're at on your journey in this, if you're somewhere in this. Or chuck it in the chat if you want to do that as well. Gaining, yeah.
Yeah, I've tried and failed. Failed a couple of times and succeeded once.
Right. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get to the end of this with a bit more success. We'll be able to unlock a few things here. What have you tried previously, Glenn? Like, what's been the technologies you've tried?
Pretty much just the publicly available GPT stuff, like ChatGPT, Mistral, Perplexity. Although I don't know if Perplexity is very good at coding, but yeah, the best result I had was with ChatGPT. That was when they were giving away the free. It was just when I think 4.0 came out, or 4.0 mini, or whatever it was. I think it was 4.0, and they were giving it away for free.
Yeah.
And I just happened to catch them before they turned it off.
Yeah, right. Correct.
And I wrote I was giving a workshop at a Python New Zealand conference last year.
Yeah.
And I needed a program to be a server and collect data from microcontrollers and display it in some sort of a thing. So it just quite
complex, yeah.
Well, yeah, I thought so. But look, it took me like half an hour and like I was so surprised that it got it right, because I've tried lots of things, and most of the time it's written code for me that doesn't work, doesn't run, that I've had to debug. But this time it was using the Python built-in graphics thing based on Tickle, and it got it right first time, and then I asked it to modify it several times, and it got it right every single time.
Yeah, it's getting pretty good, some of this stuff. So, well, there's lots of different tools and sort of scripts we'll touch on, and it's also quite an evolving space. So that's good to know you've got some background. Anyone else kind of got some stuff to share and want to talk about? People still. Okay, we'll jump. Hi
there. This is Hazel. Yeah, actually, I'm a senior data analyst. So almost every day, I use ChatGPT to write the code for me. For example, there are the SQL queries or the DAX in Power BI. Yeah. And except ChatGPT, I also try using the DeepSeek, one of the AI produced in China. Yeah, and recently I'm trying to use ChatGPT to create one, picture or some other advanced solutions for my project. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, it sounds like you've done some cool stuff. Right. Well, we'll jump on through. So it's good we've got a bit of experience on the call. I'm sure there's a few people that have kind of new to the whole thing as well. So part of the reason for this is that we're just trying to sort of tailor the experience to suit wherever you are, whatever you've done in this space. Basically, what the curve will be you'll go from this sort of spitballing of some idea of what you want to build. And where we're going to take you on this call is you'll get to the point where you've got a detailed plan in place, and then from there we'll sort of code stuff up. What AI will do for you is it'll take you up from, even if you're an experienced developer, it'll take you kind of up here fairly quickly, but you need to kind of know how to approach the technology to do the best sort of stuff. So that's the kind of the curve we'll be following. And I'll be curious to sort of see where people think they've got to at the end of this. Just in terms of technical background, sounds like we've got some people out there who are in the sort of data space. Glenn, it sounds like you might have done some sort of almost like sort of product design type of stuff, back end, front end. Any other sort of spaces jump out for you guys that you've got experience in that you want to talk out and call out? So machine learning, Hazel, any machine learning background?
Yeah, actually, in my previous job, I used the clustering, SPSS, and to do some grouping the clients. So I think it's sort of machine learning, and also, to do some prediction using the regression model. Linear regression or logistic regression or something like that. So this is a very, I think, basic machine learning skills, I think. Yeah, okay.
There's a bit of experience there, which is cool. So generally, if I was to sit down with someone who was like for the first time, and I was just to sit down with one person and say where you're at, what I would say is tell me where you're at in your whole journey here. We've mapped that out, and then we would then say, okay, right, now let's figure out the plan and go from there. So that's the kind of journey we'd take you on. What we're going to do in this case is we're going to build a front end focused session. So we'll focus on building like an actual product of some sort. So the first thing we're going to do is actually build a product requirements document. We'll then build a user interface description and then a solution architecture guide. And then out of that, we'll then throw that into create implementation. We'll go from there. There's a range of different sort of AIs you could use for this. There's been a few mentioned already, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Claude. The ones that you choose, it does matter. Doesn't matter as much as like it might first appear, but it does kind of matter. So what we have a week ago, literally a week ago, the best choice was Claude Sonnet 3.7. And Claude Sonnet 3.7 was about a 10% increase in terms of accuracy over the other ones. So that was sort of the best recommended one. Literally in the course of this last week, what's happened is Gemini 2.5 has come out and it's significantly better again. So we won't dive into the details of that because it's like we're going to be using Sonnet 3.7. But just so you know, it does actually matter which ones you use. You'll get better results from AI, which are good at coding. We're going to initially focus this session on coding, which is good for people that don't have any experience whatsoever, just to create like a front end. So we'll show you that very quickly. And to do that, I'm going to use a tool called bolt.new. Now, bolt.new, for those that haven't heard of it, is a tool that you can just type into and create some sort of interface. And you get some code that you can then start to work with sort of some more advanced tools down the back. In addition to that, we'll then look into using some of the more traditional code editors. So you've got Cursor, which is probably the sort of the leader in this AI space. I personally use Visual Studio, so that's what we'll be using today. And then Windsurf is very good as well. You can't go wrong with any of these three. And we'll sort of dive into these in more detail as we go along. But bolt.new, for the people that have done no programming and sort of don't, or if it's actually also useful if you just want to get like a dashboard of some sort up in play, like it's actually quite helpful for that as well. So that's kind of what I recommend you start with. But I'll be using bolt.new and Visual Studio, and what we're going to be doing is creating this product requirements document, the user interface guide, and the architecture guide. That'll create our implementation plan. And then from there, we'll actually make the front end and demonstrate that. So to do that, we're going to actually use AI to take on the different roles that you would typically need. So we're going to have AI act as a product manager, define what the product does. We're going to have it act as a designer, so how it looks. And then we'll have it act as a solution architect, so how it's built. We won't be looking today at data architects, like how the data is structured and flows. That's in other sessions, but these first three we will look at. Going to come back to this in a second because I want to just actually start showing you some stuff in terms of actually coding something up. So is there anything that people are looking to build that you want to build out, some ideas that you've got on top of your mind you're looking to get in place? If not, we can come up with a product of some sort. Okay, let's imagine that we're after like a personal finance tracker of some sort. So, like I said, I'm going to start with bolt.new, and then I'll show you how to bring the code from that into one of the code editors to keep working with it from there. But I just want to quickly show you how you can get some sort of interface up and running. So literally without writing any code, I'm simply going to say this to here, looking to develop a personal finance app. I want it to track expenses, income, and plot the graph of my finances still. Should include transactions, and should be easy to navigate. Okay, we're going to let that run, and then that will actually create for us a front end of some sorts, which we need to start to manage from there. What you can see at this point is that the system's starting to write some code for us based off what we did. Generally, with these AI tools, you want to write a little bit of code at a time. You don't want to write too much. And so that one of the tricks is to sort of figure out how much to get through. The beauty of this is that it's a website you come to, you sign on, you type in your sort of code, you iterate through, you can get to a point where you've got something that's up and running. The challenge with this is that you then at some point do need to sort of have some understanding of what's going on. But let's see where we've got to. We've got a finance tracker up and running now. It looks pretty basic at this point in time. So what we're going to do is actually come to our website and say, show me some nice, cool finance tracking scripts, and get some sort of stuff in there. I quite like the look of this one. So we'll take this, yeah, and then actually I'm gonna just snip that. And come back to the bolt.new and say, paste that in there and say, could you please, the look and feel, actually the image. Right. Just have a and what this will do now is it'll start to create that image, to take that that look and feel, and it'll update the what the app is that we've developed to kind of look like that. So you can iterate through this a couple of times, and you start to get to a point where you've got something that's up and running that looks reasonably good. But what we haven't done at this point is sort of done any effort into designing a product of any sort. So it's kind of a little bit hit and miss if you just throw in stuff in without a plan to implement. So we'll let this run. We'll sort of see what's come up. If there's any kind of ideas of what you guys will want to add in here or see as part of this while we're in here, we'll jump back and forth between us. But let me know if there's sort of some stuff you want to see as part of this, and we can jump back and see it. But we'll let this run and have a look at it, and then jump into the kind of the coding direct. Okay, so now we've got a slightly funkier kind of look, which is cool. We've got the ability to add a transaction. You can put a category in there. And now we've started to get like a transaction with the graph that we asked for. So you can see sort of how straightforward that is to do, including sort of look and feel. What we're going to do at this point is come back to here, and back to actually trying to get a little bit of design in place. So first of all, we want to make sure we've got clarity as to what our product does. So at this point, we're going to turn to ChatGPT. And what we'll do is we'll actually take this prompt here. So the prompt here is saying you're an expert product manager and your role is to generate a custom product requirements document. We want it in markdown format because markdown format's easy to feed into an AI coder. And we want that to help other language models understand the product, be concise, that's the goal. We want the prompt so that we get a chance to describe what we're going to do, and then the product manager is going to give us what we want. Okay, so we're looking to develop a finance app, a personal finance app, and then given the prompt, that's a product manager. Okay, so core purpose of the app is personal finances. Target users is home users. Key features, tracking expenses and income, customers charts. How should the user interact? User interacts with screen. User screens. On web app, desktop app. And 6 visuals. We call them visuals. Okay, out of that, I'm going to get a product's description that comes out. Okay, so use your this. And it'll generate a markdown document, which will show to you in one of the code editors in a second. And then you can sort of see how this starts to come together. So that's bringing that together. We are going to, just while that's happening, we're going to open up a new folder in here. I'll come with this in a second. Okay, so we've got our markdown folder. We'll just grab that and we'll bring it into our code editor over here. Okay. So product requirements file. And here at this point, we've got our file, and we actually now have a design document in place. So we've got our elevator pitch, who it's for, functional requirements, the user stories. The user stories is where it gets interesting. As a user, I want to be able to add expenses. I want to be able to do this. So that's looking pretty good to me at this stage. Sorry, is there a question? Okay. Coming back to this, we're then going to come down to the next slide in this, which is how the product looks. So here we're sort of saying you're a expert UX designer. Your role is to create a user interface description document. So they're gonna the kind of the prompt here is saying generate 3 options for the user interface designs that might suit the persona. Ask the product owner to confirm which ones they like. So we're going to put this in back into ChatGPT, and it'll think about it, it'll give us some options. We're actually going to come back and give it that screenshot that we gave it before. So I've got that as the okay. Is it typically, or should we assume extra hand holding? So the user is comfortable. This will be a weekly check-in, and expect it to be mostly solid. Okay. So I was asking some questions to sort of clarify what the guide might look like, and then it's going to give us some options. Now we're starting to build up a product design suite of what our product does, how it looks, and then we're going to get to how it's built in a second. So control center dashboard first, ledger first transactions, or assistant mode wisdom driven. I kind of like the idea of control center first. Let's go with control center first. And let's chuck into that as well a view of representative. Okay. Out of this, we'll get our sort of UX design document. So this is starting to come together here. And once this is done, then we can bring together our solution design, which will tell us the technology it's built with and kind of how to build it all out. And then from there, we can create our requirements document. So let's grab that and come back to our code base over here. I'm just going to make a folder called docs to put that all in. I'll put our UX doc in there, and then we'll put our this one in here. Now, we've got our user interface design. So we'll come back and read this in a second, but just before we do that, we want to get the next piece underway. So this is where we need to get the solution architecture in place. So here we've got a solution architect responsible for designing the technical architecture. Job is to translate high-level products. Okay, great. So it's going to take in place the product design doc and the UX doc. It'll ask for clarifications, and then it'll process them and work through them, ask clarifications, and get to a point where it's given us a few options. So this is exactly what we want. So let's get a solution architecture doc in place. Oops. Okay, and then we need to give it both of these prompts heading. So these prompts is quite large because we're getting to do some sort of fairly specific stuff. We want it to do talk around like the architecture that's going to be, any feedback, and then we want to get into the detail of what we want it to build. So as with any kind of, when you're building this sort of stuff, the prompts are obviously super helpful in getting the right prompts. But we'll get that underway. And whilst that's, of course, a couple of questions first. Solar use, hosted on AWS. Offline support feeds. No data privacy as part of the minimum viable products, so MVP. And just want to get it up and running, and no multi-device sync. but we will add those things later on. Okay. So now we should start developing our solution design document, which is great. And while that's generating, we'll come back and we'll have a look through our UX design document. So what we can see here is that we've got, left sidebar, we've got a main dashboard view, quick add back, that's cool. Got some different charts coming up, transaction list. Now, obviously, you can go through this and be like, I need different bits and pieces up and running, and then you can work through kind of what it is that you want based on that. In this case, we're just going to accept it. So normally you would spend a bit of time going back and forth over these types of design documents. In this case, we're just going to accept it. Okay, typography that we've got, font family, yep, can sort of design it there. Accessibility, so that it'll think about things that you wouldn't think about unless you were kind of an expert in this area. So WCAG 2.1AA standards is people that have vision issues. It's designed to have high contrast for that. So it's kind of, you get into those details, and if you've got the right prompts, you'll get those sorts of details coming through. Okay, so we've got our product design doc, our UX doc. If we jump back here, we should now have our solution architecture document. Okay, great, we do. And then we can jump back into Visual Studio and create our solution architecture. Now, at this point here, you'll see that we actually have a list of how it all fits together, sort of the detail of the database design, the transactions. It's quite detailed. Again, you might spend a little bit more time on this, but for the sake of an app you want to get up and running, it's just a pretty good place to start. So let's jump back to where we wanted to get to on this and just sort of see where we've got to. So we're looking to bring together the input documents from some people that we prompt, with prompt we generate to create the kind of documents we want. The kind of the refining of those prompts to suit what you want becomes something which is useful to do. So, for example, if you want a product to be built that's got a Python as the background, you would specify that in your solution design. Or if you have a particular look and feel or color scheme, you would pass in some of those reference images, so you'd have that color scheme going. But this is where you can kind of shape up what it is that you're looking to get. Now, this is the really cool bit. So we've got this up and running now. We're going to, at this point, bring up the Copilot editor within this bar is in the way here. So Copilot editor is the Visual Studio version of this document. Now you can see here that we actually, in this point, we're using Claude 3.7 to do this. We can use different types of models. I'll come back in a second to why I'm using 3.7. And I'm actually going to use 3.7, the thinking model. So this is a model that takes the time to really think things through. When you're doing an implementation plan, that's pretty helpful to have. So what we're going to do is bring across our design documents into this. And we'll actually say to this, at this point in time, that we wanted to create an implementation plan. So please create a detailed implementation plan based on PID, UX, and SA docs. This implementation plan, save the implementation plan. In the docs folder. And make checkboxes next to each item. Also mark the complexity of each item. From easy through complex. Okay. So now we're in a code editor, which is, we've passed it these 3 files. You could equally do this within ChatGPT at this stage. It's just we're starting to then move to sort of like a different kind of approach to this. But you can equally type in that same prompt to ChatGPT and start to get your kind of your documents, your plan up in place. This implementation plan is kind of where the rubber hits the road a little bit. So we'll jump into here and see what's coming out at this stage. Now what we've got here is we've got a okay, it's got an Electron project, it's a SQLite database. We're just going to change that. Change. Doing a React with Node.js. Okay, each of these ones has got details of the level of complexity. There's a couple in here which is marked as complex. We don't want complex items because they're going to be hard for the system to do. What we want in here instead is something which is a bit easier. We've also, I can just see looking at this, that it's started off by doing the database and storage layer first, and we don't want to start at that level because we're doing a front end sort of seminar on this stage. So we'll also then change it up to actually ask it to change the order to create mock data to start with. And then what we're going to do is ask it to break down complex tasks into a series of tasks, which it can then sort of tackle through. So we've got we've got the app up to that point. Okay, at this stage, we want to do the front end design first using mock data. Please change the order of the plan to focus on doing something visual rather than running quickly. And with the mock data, we're actually going to ask for it to do mock data, which is generated as opposed to sort of hard coded. Okay. So now, by the end of that, we should have a plan in place, which is pretty good. We'll just quickly jump to our back to our bolt view that we had up and running. And we will download this code from here. So this was a sort of an initial kind of view. We're going to export that out of there. And what that'll do is it'll open up the file here. I'll just get this and I'll bring it into the application over here. Snap. Sorry. Okay, so there's a source code from the Bolt application that we brought in. Now at this point we have a plan in place. We haven't yet broken down the stuff which is complex to be from sort of high complex to low complexity. So let's do that final step, and then we have an implementation plan we can follow. Okay, so finally, break down complex tasks so that nothing is complex than medium. Now we use the thinking mode for all of that, and the thinking mode was quite helpful because it's more high powered than just the Claude Sonnet 3.7. You can do any of that with any of the models, though. They actually will sort of get to this point fairly well. So we will very shortly have a pretty detailed plan in place. We'll have a quick look through that plan, and then we'll dive in. Just before we do, we're going to set up the program and run it locally that we had Bolt developed for us. Let's just install the stuff that we need in this case. And then we'll run it, and we'll sort of show it running, and then you'll see that this is like a functional app. Okay, and this stage now, we have here a little bit of luck. The application that we developed using bolt.new, and this is on the local host now. So one of the beauties of these code tools is as you change the program, the actual application will update. But at this stage, we've got a plan in place. Let's save that, and let's have a quick look at that in Markdown, so we can sort of see what we've got here and see that we've got a fairly decent plan in place. So we need to set up a few things: that with basic folder structure, mock data generation. Okay, that's going to be the interesting part. The React framework. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Budget management. What we're going to do at this stage is actually run for probably about 20 minutes or so the code, the AI tools, to kind of work through that list of items one at a time. Well, step at a time, and incrementally see the results coming out. And you'll see as we do that this is kind of how you build an app up that's quite complex, by creating a good plan and then working through that from there. Just before I start on that, though, is there any kind of questions that people have got at this stage, or anything that you want to focus on going through all this? No? Okay. We'll keep going. So I'll just bring this across and say that it's got these different files loaded up. Okay, so so an initial application has been put in source. Please, just in terms of this first step, we first of all needed to we've kind of got down to set up basic hooks and components. So please just set up basic hooks and components, and then go on the phase 2, mock data generation. Okay. Now what will start to happen is that this will start to tick through these items, and as it goes through the items, it will start to cross them off as well. So we'll actually start to see that we've got progress done, and we'll get the code built out. So it's building up a source tree here. It's got kind of an idea of what it wants to build, and we're now starting to do some mock data generation. So we've got the list of what we need in place, and we're now starting to generate the data. So at this point, it kind of becomes just a process of running through, sort of managing the prompts, looking at what's come out, and then sort of seeing the results and seeing if it's giving you what you want. And it takes the amount of time this takes depends on the complexity of what you're trying to build. The more complex you're trying to build, the longer it takes, obviously. But it really is a process of trying to kind of right size the level of prompting that we give something like this, to create the sort of information that you've got. Okay, here we've got some data is coming out. We've got some types that are defined. We've got some mock data in place, which looks great. We've got a mock budget generator, which is great. And so if we come back to our implementation plan, we should start to see that we're actually starting to get through that. So just save all that, and now we've got our mock API service as well. Come back to implementation plan, and we'll ask this to update our implementation plan at the end of every step going forward. So this will take probably about 10 minutes before we start to see this sort of starting to come through on the front end. So right now we're just sort of bringing together all the code that's required. A little bit of work to kind of bring it together so we can actually see what comes out the other side of it. But okay, it got through a certain amount, but it didn't get there. It kind of ran out of context window, so we need to ask it to continue. So we'll just ask it to continue, and we'll come back and get this. It'll be a short amount of time before we've got something up and running. Okay, so they're new enough to kind of come back and keep going with the this particular file. We have a data, like a sort of a folder structure emerging over here. You can see we've got our plan, our docs in place. We've got our source codes, and in our source code we've got our data, we've got our components that we're going to work through, and our services, which in this case is some mock API calls. So it is sort of starting to come together, which is great. And where we want to get to is that we've got this data starting to come through here, where it sort of starts to look like we've got some kind of cool stuff in place. So let's see where that gets us to. And let's just bring back up the markdown version of this. So you can see how we're tracking with this. This is a little bit more complex than I would normally do in this case, so it's taking a little bit of time to create stuff. It's the thinking model, so it's been sort of relatively comprehensive. We might at this stage change to just normal 3.7 because we've kind of used the thinking model for the complex stuff that we wanted to use it for. Okay, cool. So it's done all that stuff. We will ask it to now please update documentation plan before you've got to, and go on to stage 3 implementation. And we will change that back to 3.7. You can change sort of at any time and it still sort of runs through okay, and it's the same on all the different sort of tools. If we were to keep going doing this just on bolt.new, and we will actually just jump back in there and quickly do this, we could, for example, now create some mock data so that you can see what this might look like. Bit more detail. And this will then come through, and this is obviously it's a separate piece of code now, but it will update that and we'll get some sort of results coming out. Okay, we've now updating the plan. It's done. It's still kind of working through that. We'll come back to the app here that we've developed in Bolt, which is sort of a simplified version of this. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Now we're starting to get some sort of data coming up in there. Okay, back on this one, we have updated our plan. We'll just jump in and have a look at what that looks like. Yeah. Okay, so now we can start to see that we're getting through some of the code, the plan that we had. So we've done our setup, we've done our mock data generation, we've started to create a front-end framework. I'm going to ask you at this stage to come along and start to create some dashboards so we can actually see some stuff coming through. And then you'll start to see like an application coming together on the various front side. So that's what we want to see next. So let's bring this back. Just begin with this. And then we'll get some actual kind of results out. And we'll get to a point where there's a functional app up and running that's doing some basic stuff. And then the path of continuing this is just a kind of a question of continuing to progress, doing different bits and pieces as we build this out. So it's kind of working through that checklist. And like I said, there's usually a bit of thought to get the checklist set up in the right sort of way. And then you go from there. So any questions at this stage as we kind of have this ticking along? Any people got some sort of things? Is this what you guys had expected to see? Is it more detailed than you'd expected to see? What's the kind of the view that you've got from what you've seen here so far? Anything in the chat? Yeah, okay. It can load and filter a CSV that you got from the bank. Yes, we can do that. It's just the case of getting a CSV file and then designing the application to ingest that. So yeah, you can definitely do that. We've got our, let's have a look at what we're coming together here. We have our transaction pages coming together. We've got our settings page. It's done quite a comprehensive job, actually. And we're then going to start trying to run this and see if we can get like an actual result out. So we've got about 15 minutes left to run this because I want to get to the end with enough time to get through the questions at the end. So we're kind of in this development walkthrough. Give us about 15 minutes just to get something up and running, and then we'll get a chance to kind of come back and ask people some questions and get your thoughts as we go along. So we're kind of back at this stage. Okay. We've now got an updated implementation plan. Let's have a look at what we've got to. That looks like it's still updating to some extent. Okay. Now we'll implementation plan and create some visuals. So let's like see this. So okay, we will just get that running. Now we've got an error appearing here, which is cool because now I can start to show you guys how to fix an error. So we probably need to install some stuff because we just put a whole bunch of additional code in there. So as you're adding bits of code to this, the system will add that to the list of the packages that it needs. And as that list of packages gets built out, you'll need to come back and install stuff. So we have done that. We'll run it again and see if we actually get this still running at this stage. It's not going to show. Here we go. We're starting to get some interesting stuff coming through now. So we've got some of the sidebar that we wanted to see. We've obviously got some weird stuff going on here, so we'll come back and see if we can fix that. But we actually have some sort of code starting to come together now, which is cool. Cursor AI is good. I personally like use Visual Studio Code because I just that's what we use at work. But Cursor is good. All of those three tools, Cursor, Windsurf is a good one as well, and Visual Studio Code, they're all kind of much of a muchness as well. Okay, we are through phase 3, phase 4. We're actually partway through phase 5, so we've actually got some pretty cool stuff here. It's done. It's actually jumped ahead and done an awful lot, actually. And at this stage, I'm really keen to get it to a point where we've got something we can see. We've got 10 minutes to get something we can kind of see. So let's wait for this to finish building. Dashboard summary. Jump back and see how this is looking. It's got this weird glitchy thing going on. It's a bit new. And that's settings screen. Okay. Normal spending, high spending. We've got some different modes. We've got demo user modes. We can jump through there. So we're going to come back to this, and we will jump in and out of this as the session continues, just to try and get it finished. But what I want to do at this point is actually jump into the Q&A side of things and take you guys through some questions you might have. Okay, I've got a donut chart. I'm going to get that. That's kind of cool. All right. So back on this. Where have we got to? At this point in time, if you've got some questions, you can reach out to me. It's my email address. You kind of know how to put together some basic stuff of how to build things. So you know how to do a product design doc, interface doc, solution architecture, and implementation guide. You've got some idea on the tools that you could use. So I would recommend that we start with bolt.new. It's the easiest kind of tool to start with. If you've got some more experience, then Cursor, Windsurf, or Visual Studio Code is the way to go. You guys also know about the Product Foundry site. So that's there. That's got the list of all the upcoming events that we've got on. There's not just the Auckland events. There's other ones that are running. So feel free to jump on there and you'll see the events page. We're still working on that. So it's a little bit prototype at the moment, but that'll be together shortly. So you can jump on there and sort of see what it is that, what events are coming up and build that stuff out. And then I also want to point out that there's a hackathon that's running in about a month's time. Really would encourage you guys to join that. It's a day event. It will be a bunch of people that are kind of wanting to get in there, have had a bit of a go, aren't quite sure where to go, and we'll put together some teams. Be loads of fun. And it'd be great to kind of get people to come along to that. Let's just quickly come back to this. Okay, we've got our... Okay, it's still going. Okay. So just need to tend to the AI every so often to make sure it's still running. But the hackathon is going to be great. And what would be good there is if you've got a product you want to build, that you kind of will get people to talk beforehand and ideally form teams before the actual event. And then on the day, people sort of jump in and see what's going on there. I also run a business that is just starting up that helps unlock people that want to grow their business using AI automation. That's the website GoGetAI.live. There's a series of courses and training coming up, which is effectively the kind of the instructions that go with all of this stuff will be documented so people can follow stuff through. So it'll start with the courses. It'll then go through to sort of mentorship and consulting and up to full development. So if that's interesting to you, feel free to jump on there. And then, of course, there is a couple of places you can go to sort of keep tracking stuff through. The YouTube channel is set up. It's this will be the first video that I'll put up there with the kind of details from that. But there are a series of events that have been run, and I'll be uploading the videos from all of those events to that YouTube channel. So if we go back to the course of events, you can see that there's a whole series running in Auckland. There's a similar seminar running in a couple of cities. So there's actually going to be quite a bit of information that comes together on that YouTube channel. You can jump onto the Discord. That's going to be really helpful for people who want to go to the hackathon, to kind of get people talking and get people kind of planning stuff out together. And that's the link to the hackathon there. At this point in time as well, I'm going to take this sort of material and I'll bring it back into course instructions. So I'm looking for people to volunteer to help me kind of get those instructions correct. That process of doing that will help you bring a project that you might have forward and get you a shout out. What you would be required to do would be to give a few minutes to run through the course instructions, check they work for you. Obviously, you then get my help to make sure they're running for you. And again, you can email there if you've got desire to kind of get involved in that. Okay, I'll jump back to this now and see where we've got to. So it's really getting into the detail now. This is, okay, let's see where the implementation plans got there. We've got, okay. Wow, we got quite a bit done whilst we were away. So phase 5, implement CSV import functionality. So that's back on the question of bringing in CSV data. Do that. Budget management, yes. But what we have got at the moment, which is a bit weird, is that's kind of glitchiness going on. So let's see if we can figure out what that is. Okay. And this, by the way, has been built a little bit faster than I would normally do it. Like normally you would take some time to actually go back and check things as you go. But obviously we're trying to sort of demonstrate the process here. Okay. Now, I ran this program. The screen didn't come up. So I've hit F12 because there's clearly an error of some sort going on. And there's an error message coming up saying this module didn't load up. So I'm going to take that copy of that error message and we'll jump back into the window over here and we'll just paste that in, and then the AI will go away and figure out what the issue was. That every so often you'll hit those kind of errors and you need to actually then feed the information back as to what the issue is. So there's a couple of kind of tricks to debugging this sort of stuff as well. It's also why there's a kind of a, I guess, advice is not to do too much at once, because if you do too much at once, something might get broken. AI is not perfect, and then you don't know where to come back and fix it because too much has changed in one go. Okay, so this has replaced the non-existent circle plus with the correct plus circle. Okay, sweet. We jump back into the website. Okay, got another one. So it's hallucinating these icons, thinking that it's the right icon, but it's not. But it's smart enough so that when you feed the information back, it kind of knows that it's got to fix stuff. So we will get this up and running shortly. And then we'll come back and have a look at the application that's come out. Okay, so it's fixing that. We have on the source side of things, the kind of direct what's emerging is pretty cool. So we've got the charts, dashboard layouts, transactions, a bunch of cool stuff there. So that's pretty cool. And now it looks like we have finished updating that. Okay, let's set that up. And hopefully this is just the process of grinding through the errors at this point in time. And because I've, as I said, because I've let it run a little bit further ahead than I normally would, there's probably a few errors to fix. So we'll grind through these because I'm really keen to get to a point where there's an actual working app that you guys can see at the end of this. But the nice thing about the error message is it sort of says, this is where it's at, is that budget progress cards, such and such line. You can actually click on this and we can come in and we can see exactly where it is. Now it looks like all of these icons here are not actually available. So tracking back down to where the actual problem is sort of fairly doable. All right, let's fix those set of errors. So now let's go back. There's probably a couple more because it's probably done a whole stack of these. Let's see. Okay. It's looking good, but it's got these weird glitches going on. So you can see the dashboards. Just see if we can take a screenshot of this. Okay. The screen is showing. It's flickering. It's trying to and keep trying. This works. That's pretty optimistic kind of thing. We'll bring the thinking mode back in for that, see how it goes. But we have got a kind of a reasonably cool app in place at this point in time. But let's just have a look at where we've got to. We've got our monthly trends, top spending, financial health. There's obviously been a chunk of development of, mock data that we generated that sits on the back of this. So other than the Flickr issue, I think that's a pretty good spot to get to. And we'll see if we get that Flickr issue as well. You can see that it's loading and then it loads and it kind of gets stuck in there somewhere. So it's kind of running through that loop. Let's see where the code base gets to. Okay, so most likely due to missing components, infinite re-renders or input problems. So the thing about AI coding that you can see from this is you don't need to know everything of what's going on. If you have very little knowledge, then steps you take are smaller. So if something breaks, you can sort of wind it back. If you've got more knowledge, you can take bigger steps, and then it's kind of easy to say, oh, this is what's happening, and sort of know where to direct the AI. If you sort of give it a whole bunch of instructions and it goes a long way down the track and something's not working, and you've got limited knowledge, it's hard to fix it, but you can take those steps along the way. So let's come back to this and I'll sort of show you then what I'm talking about in here. So this is where we went to today. We went from spitballing, we went really quick to a detailed plan, and we're kind of coming up the path here. Now, this doesn't happen instantly. You don't become an AI coding guru overnight. There's still a set of skill involved to it, but you can see how much quicker it is to get up there, and you can see how you can ask the questions of where is the problem with this application? What is it that I need to look at to kind of get to solve my problem? This is still going through fixing the issues. But it looks like it's got an idea of what it might be. I'd be really curious to see if it gets it. And at this point, we've got the edits being applied. So we'll see if we can get to. There's a couple of areas that's going to fix. Okay. But yeah, coming up the curve here is the key thing. I cannot emphasize this enough. Getting this plan in place is really important, because if you don't have a plan, then you can't go back and ask the AI, is this a good plan? Have I considered the right things? So I would be spending a chunk of time on this spitballing and detailed plan stuff, working with the AI to get it to a point where it's a good plan and it's got that breakdown of steps you want to do. once you've got that breakdown of steps you want to do, you can actually run that past a number of people. You can run it past different AIs, for example. So let's actually do that. I'm going to take this this package. It thinks it's fixed it. Let's snip it. It's better. Different. Report pages look like them. Okay, let's get this stuff on. Okay. So we're going to take this implementation plan here, and we'll actually feed it back into where we started, which was ChatGPT, and see what it sort of thinks. Okay. Here is the implementation plan I came up with. What are your thoughts? Where could this be improved? Okay, we'll chuck that in, and it's going to come back, and it will say to us that, okay, what's good about the plan? It's got a clear approach. It's got mock data first, which is spot on. So the front is usable and testable. Creates reusable services, yes. Does all this sort of stuff. Okay. Suggestion for improvement. Backend scope is overkill, and backend scope is hard to get right. So that sounds right. You want an export feature to CSV. Testing is more implementation. So in general, like it says, yeah, you've got a good plan in place. You're actually tackling this in a sort of a sensible way, and you'll find that the code base that you build out as a result of that is going to be pretty good. Okay, we're still looking for solving possible issues, but we kind of know at this point in time that what we're doing and the approach we're taking is reasonable. And this is a reasonable comment as well. The issues you get around that is there are some significant issues that come with it. So yeah, that's kind of where we've got to. We've got a few minutes left, so we'll run through this. If you guys enjoyed this session, please put a review on Meetup, sort of what you thought. It really helps to get people in. We'll be running these each week at different levels. Automated testing is something that we would do, something as part of it, but it's kind of the next level of step up from this. There's a whole bunch involved in testing. Generally, with AI tools, because they're so fast now, you try and get like an app up and running that gives you kind of an idea of what you're looking for. And then the benefit of testing is that as things change, as the product becomes more mature, you don't want something that you designed and you knew was working to break because you designed something else. So you want the automated testing to stop existing known working code base from falling over for some reason. So in this early prototype phase, testing is not kind of where you put your efforts into. But later on, for sure, so that was helpful. Cool. It's had a bit of a crack at fixing that. Let's see. It's got an error in here. I'm just going to quickly just put in. Just make sure we don't need to install anything. Once again. That's some stuff. There's something. Not be able to get the end option. Maybe. Normally you get to a point where something is working. Let's come back to this. So yeah, be really helpful if you guys were to shout out in terms of the level of usefulness. So from unclear to clear or interesting to not interesting, could you guys maybe just jump in or put some comments in the chat so I can sort of see what you thought of it? Interesting. Is it? I realize there's a lot that's being covered in this. So one of the things that we'll be looking to do is to like create some instructions that come out of this, which is one of the reasons I'm looking for volunteers to kind of help bring those instructions together so people have something to follow on with at the end. Yeah, I realize it's fast. I'm trying to show you the possibilities of what can be done. And the intent is that you then come back to the materials and you can sort of follow along and work through it. The other reason that I'll be putting the video up is that you can then run through the video and sort of see stuff as it goes through. But feel free to reach out if you've got questions. And probably the best way if you're wanting to sort of replicate this is to kind of get involved in the helping me get those instructions clear. Because the point of kind of working through getting this into a set of instructions will be obviously by the time you've done that, you've kind of you followed along, so you can do it as well. There is a lot to cover, and there is a lot of different areas to cover. But if you had some clear instructions and you had some some guide, I think you could get there fairly quick. Less common frameworks may have less training data. Yeah, the coding tools are getting pretty good. So for the I'll come on to the tech stack in a minute, and the tech stack that's been chosen has been chosen specifically because it's common and it's got good training data. But I just jump to the tech stack because that's probably one of the more useful things to be looking at. Just while we do this, we'll just keep tending this to see if we can get this running. It's going to annoy me if we don't get it actually running. No, let's do start. Okay. And the way it is. That's not actually sure. Okay. Tech stack. So LLMs, Claude 3.7, the way to go. Gemini is phenomenal, 2.7, amazing. DeepSeek's pretty good, like mega cheap. Can recommend. And Quen surprisingly good as well. So there's a lot of good choices to choose from. The process of developing code is becoming easier to do. Now I program in Python, back-end stuff, and JavaScript for front-end. Why don't I use the same language on both? Because the language doesn't matter so much anymore because the AI does it for you. But secondly, for front-end stuff, there's just a wealth of bits and pieces in place for JavaScript. For Python, when you get data, there's a wealth of kind of tools for all of the data handling. So the two languages which are best fit for those two areas. And so that's why I kind of use those two. AI tools that use bolt.new, fantastic, Windsurf Cursor. Bolt.dy is an interesting one. It's cheaper than bolt.new. So I'm just going to jump back to bolt.new here. And you'll see that I've got 11.7 million tokens remaining. Now I've subscribed to a fairly hefty version of this. I'm not using bolt.new as much anymore, but you do spend tokens on that. Bolt.dy is it's a bit more effort to set up, but it doesn't have the cost that goes with bolt.new. So it runs cheaper because you can run lower cost LLMs on it. Frameworks, this is for AI agents, Pydantic AI, LangGraph. That's getting into some more sort of detailed stuff. Databases. This databases is what we're going to cover in the session coming up. So the next session on the 7th of April, we'll be diving into databases. It'll be a similarly fairly fast-paced sort of thing, But again, at the end, we'll be extracting out instructions so people can follow along and go from there. The databases is what's called Superbase is what I recommend for that. Automation, N8N, amazing. We'll be going into that more detail. And then we're into sort of some of the more specific stuff. So, where you should host your service on, what you should use for testing, how you should do continuous integration, continuous deployment. So, you want to develop a piece of software and then get it out there. And then, some kind of specific stuff. The tech stack's always kind of evolving. There's always kind of new things on the go. And a good example of that is just literally the fact that from 1 week to the next, Gemini 2.5 came out with a coding average that's like 10 points above the best in breed at the time. So the space moves pretty quick. And then I guess this last sort of question is if anyone's got any specific area of interest they would want to cover in upcoming sessions or things which aren't in here. Happy to take those either on this call or sort of later on. So anything that you guys have got there that you're looking to get in place for this? If you've got stuff that you want to shout out during the sessions, then yeah, author user. That's something I'll be covering off at some point as well. Database is next week, so sign up for the session on the database stuff. There's a couple of things around payments as well, payment gateways that I'll be looking to prioritize as part of all this. But yeah, jump on and sign up. And also feel free to email me because it's the feedback I get is kind of where I get involved. The other thing that I would suggest you guys do if you're listening to this is get along to the hackathon, because the hackathon is where we can dive into some of the specific details of what it is that you're looking to do. You'll find the hackathon details on the Meetup site. Yeah, backend is getting covered there's there are a couple of different meetup groups that are running. So if I'll chuck this in the chat, but there's one in Sydney that you can jump onto there, and there's a couple of different sort of types of things running there. So I'll chuck it in the chat so you guys can. If you want to jump into one of the Sydney ones, you can. And there's also the Minnesota group here. I'll chuck that in. So if you really want to go nuts, you can join on one of these, but you'll kind of get the same information thrown at you on those sessions because they repeat. Having said that, I do update the slides each time, so you will sort of see stuff. But you'll also see, because the stuff, I can cover this fast, so I can cover a lot. Seeing a repeat session, you'll actually be able to ingest a bit more. But what I would recommend is jump on for some sessions, sign up for kind of more of those, jump on as a volunteer if it's that way inclined, and help me get the instructions clear. And then, you get up to speed pretty quick that way. But that's kind of the session. I don't think that, okay, we just have one final crack at getting this running, and let's see if we've come close. So, okay, it simplified the issue down. So it's let's see if he wants the issues resolved. So this is the process of debugging. It's like it's taken it right back, and it's now sort of saying that's what's in place. Let's do one last little thing. So display the sidebar and load the charts, select the screens, load data, please. Might be the issue. You try a few things and see what sort of works. But I did sort of move too fast, so I don't even know what's kind of in place. So it's hard to figure out where it would be broken down. But we've got a pretty good structure in place. We've got some code which is running, and we've got a an issue to debug. This is not unusual in this sort of development, and it was only 50 odd minutes that we had to. So that's kind of the session. This is representative of the sort of stuff that's covered. It's not for the faint of heart, obviously. It runs at a fairly rapid pace, but at the same time, if you immerse yourself in this, it's when you can learn pretty quick. And looking to build some peer support, to get some people talking together, to build these hackathons, to build a little community so we can together kind of get some great stuff up and running. And feel free to jump on with questions or have a look at the videos and enjoy poking around and seeing what's possible.